You can find my music on Spotify, and you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Stenosis Music. And if you like what you see, consider subscribing. Welcome to part 4 of the Alesis, I think it's part 4, of the Alesis Strike Pro. I got it put together. It was over there. A screwdriver. Using it as a pointing device. It was over there. That was in the other videos you saw me put it together. Fairly difficult. I looked like a little inchworm as I was going to move it this way and move it that and move it this way. But I got it. And it does kind of inch along, so you don't have to like pick the whole thing up. It's really heavy, which is good. It's a good mark of quality. Now, okay, you see I got my throne. Can't even see what I'm pointing at here. That's the brain or module sitting on the snare drum. I waited to set up the hi-hat stand and the snare and the bass drum, which you can't see, might be in here, until it was in its final spot, because there's no sense in setting it all up over there and then moving it all over here, having to do it all over again. Because for me personally, the most intricate part of setting up a drum set, just the way I play and the way I set things up, is always in the snare, kick, pedal, hi-hat area region. Everything else is fairly simple for me. Some drummers are different, but for me it's always been the most time consuming part. One thing that I found with this drum set that I was extremely pleased with is you can move the drum. Oh, my mask is really bright here. How about that? You can move the drums up and down on the rack entirely. Let me show you. So, for example, like these two toms here, which you might not be able to see because of the symbol, or these two toms here, they're on a bar like this, but a bigger one, like this one. I'll explain why I have these in a second, but this big bar connects to the legs, this leg and this leg, and on it are the two drums. Well, this bar on either end has a clamp, and the whole bar can go up and down, which moves both drums at the same time. The big bar is for, this is what goes on, was supposed to be on this side along the wall here for the Strike Pro kit, and this is the Strike kit piece. Well, I had two of these. I took one and I put it over there because I wanted it to be a little shorter. So I'm using a piece from what would be the Strike kit on the Strike Pro kit. It's a great additive, and it's another way of customizing it. Move my hair out the way. Customizing it for your own needs. It's really great. As I said, here is the module or the brain. The screws that I said in another video I would surely lose, I haven't yet. I think they're all in there. And then here's the backing plate. It goes on the back of the module, so let's put that on. There, got this little kickstand on. Okay. There were a couple things that I noticed. One that I really like, one that no. So, this. I found this in one of the bags as I was opening things up. It's a bunch of Velcro straps for cables, so you can have good cable management. And there's a lot of them in here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 of them, I think, if I give or take one or two. This is excellent because cable management is extremely important to me anyway. Should be important to you too, because if you're walking around a studio and you trip and you fall, that could be a very expensive mistake. Cable management is great, and that they send a lot of these in the kit so that you can better organize what you're doing is wonderful. The thing that's not so wonderful is this. That's the power cable. I can literally hold it in my hands and not even extend it all the way. Or extend my hands all the way, I mean. Wish that were a little longer. I don't know. Seems pretty short. It's like, what is it? 5 feet. I'm 6 feet tall, so I'm assuming that's 5 feet. What are you gonna do? Extension cords. I also got this thing, a little name badge. I don't really know what it is. And then here is the business. This is all the cables. Come on. There we go. ROHS. Not sure what that means. Put that over there. There's a lot of cables. And it looks like, oh no, there's a mono plug there, but most of them are all stereo plugs, or what they call TRS. Yeah, I see. But it looks like all of them except for hi-hat control are TRS. Now see the difference. Come here. Come here, damn it. Come on. Come on. Don't you run from me. Okay. See the difference there? This is a TS or tip sleeve. This is TRS, tip ring sleeve, or like layman's terms, mono cable, stereo cable. But one of the selling features about this drum kit was that it took 1/4 inch cables. I didn't know if it was TRS or TS. Regardless, it's way better than a proprietary cable system. There are other drum sets, and I even believe that Alesis has some, that have a specific cable system for that drum set. So if the cable in any of the drums goes bad, the whole thing goes down. That's not very good. This is great, because if one of these cables goes out, you just go get you another TRS cable and replace it. Okay, I should probably figure out how to mount the brain. Okay, got it. It turns out that the clamp that holds on the toms to the rack I showed in an earlier video also will hold on. That would explain why I have an extra one, or had an extra one. Now I don't, because you used to hang that up. Oh, there it is. Brain right there. It's supposed to go on this pipe here, but it's a little too far left, and I like to have things in my field of view. I like to be able to work on stuff, have it right there at my fingertips. So actually, another great feature about this kit is the customization. You can make it how you want. I put it here in front of me, which I'll do an overhead shot of the drum kit so you can see where I have everything laid out. That way, whenever I'm playing, I can see my faders. I can move them around. I don't have to keep turning, twisting, looking around. It's all right there. Let's look at the kit. And here you are. Got the ride symbol here. Usually, I would have a jazz ride here, and then another symbol here, another symbol, and then, of course, we have the one floor tom, which would be tom 4, tom 3, tom 2, tom 1, and the snare. A thing I really love about this kit is that the drums are bigger. It feels like a real kit. The snare is on an actual stand. Whenever I was moving that around back in the day, I would just grab the snare, because I always have my clamp real tight, and I would just pick the whole thing up and move it around with the clamp, or the stand, I mean. Whenever I pick this thing up, it feels like an acoustic snare. It reminds me of the days whenever I was drumming all the time, and I love it. You know, from nostalgia purposes and from a functional standpoint, it's fantastic. The kick drum feels really good. Also has the mesh head just like these. I don't notice a difference really between it and acoustic kit. It's wonderful. It's the double bass pedal, and as you can see, this is how I have it set up right now. Whenever I play, here's a throne, by the way, what they call a tractor seat throne. Move that out of the way for now. Whenever I play in a fairly odd manner. Something that back in the day people would always notice about my playing style. Instead of, and no, I'm not going to play in these boots. Instead of switching, because typically a drummer would have the hi-hat stand here and just switch over like this. And that, it never worked for me. So the way I play, let me scoot up here, is I actually cross foot what I'm doing. I use my heel for the hi-hat and my toe for the bass drum. So if I'm going along and I want to do a hi-hat lift, I lift my heel. If I want to do double bass stuff, I use my toe like that. If I'm wanting the hi-hat to just ride on a wash, I can just move my heel over a little bit. It's just been the way I've always played ever since I was a kid. And then here's the brain, like I said, set up right in front of me. I can reach forward, I can see what's going on. Because this is my view. Don't worry about all that crap over there. It's actually going to get moved soon, but this is my view. There's another symbol and another cymbal. So I have one here, one here, one here, and then the ride. So it's working out really, really well. And then the hi-hat. And then here's the back side of the kick drum, because some people might be curious how it'll function on a non-carpeted surface. You can see I just took the screws out. These screws have little spikes on the bottom to help it dig into a rug or carpet so it doesn't go anywhere. I'm just using the rubber feet. They unscrew and cover up the spikes that stick out of these. And I've been tinkering around on this since I've had it set up, and it hasn't moved at all. As you can, I mean, like I said, those screws I took out and then they're sitting exactly where they were. Everything's still lined up. And in this snake, which is what a bunch of cables wrapped together is called, is a cable snake, you can see that all the cables each have a name. So snare, ride, tom 3, tom 4, and they're labeled on the other side. So you don't get confused. You don't have to go tracing cables to figure out where they go. And then if you're confused as to which end goes in the brain and which end goes in the actual pad, well, for one, it doesn't really matter. But two, it'd be kind of hard to stretch this end from kick drum to the snare drum to the hi-hat. So this is the end that goes in the back of the brain. Let's do it. There you go. They're all plugged into the back. Let's see if we can't plug them into the pads. And this is why those Velcro straps are so important. Okay, I went ahead and spared you the tedious task of plugging everything in and routing all the wires. I've always been very wire management specific. So you can see, I actually used all of the Velcro straps that Alesis provided with this. If they would have provided 20 of them, I would have used 20 even. You can see with the drums, I have it all routed here. The ride has 2 cables that go to it. I believe that's for the bell and for the rim there. But you can see I strapped all the cables down in an orderly fashion. Now, these drums might move over time. So it's important that your cables never have tension here. You can see I strapped it to this pole. So if this drum moves, there's slack here for it to move. Also, if this drum just for some reason falls, the cable will be caught here, not here. If that makes sense. I mean, if the drum completely falls off and separates itself from everything, then of course that'll happen, but it'd have to defy gravity in order for that to happen. The bass drum might move from time to time, you never know. So it's important to have your cable strapped to the leg so that any distance the tension goes to the leg, not the jack. Same with the cymbals here. You can see I wound the cable all the way up because these cymbals move. It's just a way of having good cable management and taking the tension off of the jack itself if something were to happen. Of course, something can always happen and it's not a foolproof system, but it's just another way of staying organized. Now, let's get some power to it.
Heat up, heat up, heat up. I wanna savor the moment. I wanna let it down enough to break. Heat up, heat up, heat up. Say I'm lending my door. I say I'm embracing the comfort.